I hate doing stuff like that. Hello, 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 my friends. My name is Jill Osborne. I am the president and founder of the Interstitial Cystitis Network. It is Tuesday, September 25th. We have just gone live both on Facebook and YouTube. We were testing software a little bit earlier, and now we've gone back to our old streaming format, which means we don't have software that's freezing everything. My goal is to make you so strong, so knowledgeable, so informed that no one can ever F with you again. Again. We are so past the days of people telling us this is in our heads. Fuck you. I didn't say it, but I mouthed it. I am pissed today. I mean, you just kind of have to know I am a little amped up. I'm a little worked up today for a number of different reasons. Aside from the fact that we are under a massive fire alert and the power can go out at any time, and I'm looking at the wind, waiting for the wind to start gusting. So I so appreciate your patience. Now, we are in the last week of IC Awareness Month, pretty much. Hello, baby, right there. IC Awareness Month. This is a month where we all get together, kick some butt, make some change. And I really, 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 really need you to go over to the website, icawareness.org, and take a look and see what you can do. Because you can do lots of stuff for IC Awareness Month. You can nominate your doctor, your physical therapist, or your nurse for the Doctor of the Year, for the Care Provider of the Year awards. You can tell your story because I publish those stories in our magazine when it's over. And the more stories we have, the better, because the IC patient community is so unique. You might think you're the only one who has your symptoms. And I can tell you, you're not the only one who has your symptoms. In fact, I had a funny email today. Let's see if I can find it. It was a funny email from a patient who was wondering if she was the only one who had a specific set of symptoms. Is this it? No, anyway, it'll come to me. Every story is unique. Every patient is an anatomical mystery to be solved. And as we ponder your unique case of IC and pelvic pain, this is what we got to look at. We have to look at bony structures. Is there anything dysfunctional in your skeletal system that could be contributing to this? As an example, Tarlov cysts. Could you have a small cyst of spinal fluid that has come out of your spine, pushing on the nerves around L4, L5 that innervate your bladder? We need to look at your organs. That's your bladder. For men, your prostate. For women, your uterus. We want to know what the health of your bladder wall is. Could you have a bladder wall injury? Could you have a uterine issue? Could you have fibroids? Could you have endometriosis? Or for a man, could you have something going on with your prostate? Chronic prostatitis, some prostate cancer? We don't know. We need to look at your muscles, because the biggest variant in this IC patient community are patients with muscle issues. Because when your muscles are injured, when your muscles are tight, guess what? It affects your bladder. I call it the chicken versus the egg dilemma. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? And for us, it's which comes first, your bladder or your pelvic floor? The reality is that they're both involved to some degree because they are so closely connected. But one is generally driving the other. One is generally driving the other. So for some of you, your IC began after some sort of bladder injury or bladder issue. It could have been chemotherapy. It could have been a terrible diet. You drinking monster drinks or Mountain Dew all day, not understanding that your bladder just can't take that massive acid load all day. It could have been some sort of chemical exposure, other type of chemical exposure, or ketamine, some sort of drug like that. So, or it could have been an infection. There could have been an infection that triggered your symptoms in some way. And because your bladder is screaming in pain, here's your bladder, here's your pelvic floor, your muscles get tight in a guarding reflex. Your muscles get tight to protect you from pain. That is entirely subconscious. That does not turn off. You cannot turn that off. That is how your body protects itself. Okay, so for this patient, our therapeutic priority is going to be to calm and soothe the bladder and figure out what the hell's going on with the bladder. And we know when we can get that bladder treated correctly, those muscles should relax. As the bladder stops throbbing in pain, the muscles should relax. However, the far bigger group are the patients whose symptoms began after a muscle trauma of some type. So here you have an entirely normal bladder. You're just beeping along, you know, have no problems with your bladder, no history, frequency, urgency, pressure, pain, then bam, you fall on your butt, you fall on your tailbone. And what happens is when you take a major injury to your pelvic floor, and it could be a fall, it could be a car accident, it could be having a baby, anything at all like that, your muscles get tight. What happens is the injury weakens them. And because they're so weak, they can't do the job they're meant to do, so they get tight. So here you've got a healthy bladder and you've got tight freaking muscles squeezing it, right? And think about this. Look at what happens when I squeeze. Bam. Look at, oh, wait, hold on. That wasn't a good example. When you squeeze, look, it gets white, right? Because when you put pressure on it, it drives the muscle, it drives the blood flow away from the organ. And that's exactly what happens in this situation. So here you got a normal, healthy bladder and you're squeezing like mad because your muscles are screwed up. So how does that affect your bladder? Well, number one, your bladder's not getting the nutrition it needs to be healthy. And number two, the bladder's not getting the oxygen it needs to be healthy. And so for this patient, again, you might not know you have a freaking muscle injury at all. Your first symptom is frequency, urgency, pressure, pain. What do? You call your doctor and you go, hey, doc, I think I have a bladder infection. They give you antibiotics. They don't work. You call your back doctor, doc, the frequency, urgency is still there. The doctor goes, hey, maybe you got overactive bladder. And they put you on Detrol or Ditropan. That doesn't work. Then you call back and go, doc, I'm sorry, it's not working. Remember, here we got this healthy bladder and we got these tight muscles. The doc goes, hey, maybe you got interstitial cystitis, and they throw Elmeron at you and bladder installations at you, and none of those work. And the reality for this group of patients is no bladder therapies are going to work. The therapeutic priority for this patient is to restore blood flow. How do we restore blood flow? We release the muscles. We have to release the muscles. When we release the muscles, the bladder is now getting the blood flow that it that it needs to be healthy. And when you have, in fact, I'm supposed to be at physical therapy right now, but they canceled. What happens is when you do physical therapy, and this is not anatomically correct, but let's just say you've got kind of a trigger point, or your muscles are kind of locked down. They're going to go in with a finger and they're just going to very, very gently kind of manipulate the muscle. And their goal is to try to get the muscle to its normal length, right? When you pop okay, and you can see how bad my muscles are right now. I don't have biceps anymore like I used to. So when you pop a bicep, my little modest bicep here, the muscle bunches. Okay, but you can't hold that bicep for a long period of time. That's not the normal way a muscle is supposed to be. A muscle is supposed to be long and loose. A muscle is supposed to be long. So when you have pelvic floor physical therapy, their goal here is to get in here and try to get this muscle long. They want it back to its natural position. And they might do lengthening, depending upon which muscle group they're working on. They might go for lengthening, or they might do this. They might go, at a 90-degree angle to try to work on that. Now, I was working with a patient the other day who just said, it's a really, really interesting case because she went to pelvic floor physical therapy, I think twice, and it hurt for 3 days. And she's like, why would I go back when it hurts? And it's like, why would you go back? Why would you do a bladder therapy when it clearly shows that your muscles are the issue? Listen, if you have a pelvic floor assessment and they touch a muscle and it triggers your pain, that is a tremendous success, my friends, because it means they found it. That's like, holy hell, they found it. There's no mystery. It's your piriformis muscle. It's your levator muscle. It's your psoas muscle. If a physical therapist can go in and touch a muscle group and trigger your symptoms, hallelujah, baby, the mystery is solved. We know that that muscle is a big part of this problem. And she was very resistant to wanting to go back and do it again. And I just said, okay, listen, number one, communication is everything. So wait, before you disrobe, what you're going to do is you're going to tell her what happened. Tell her how you felt. And it is her job then to back off and figure out what was triggering some of that pain and discomfort. And it may be that she might need to do external work a little bit before she goes internal again. But to walk away from physical therapy when touching a muscle triggers your pain is a tremendous tragedy here. Don't be afraid of that pain. Use it constructively. Talk to your physical therapist about it. And especially when you're laying on the table and say, okay, what are you touching right there? Okay, that's weird. Okay, that hurts. And it's this really good conversation between the two of you about what works and what doesn't work and this, that, etc. So again, the largest subgroup we think, and I think based upon my personal experience, 25 years working with thousands of patients, are muscle injury patients. And that's why these broad strokes of saying everybody has infection or everybody has lesions or everybody has this or that does not work in this office. It does not work in this office. Every day I prove that wrong. All right. Patty. So Patty on YouTube was one of our winners last Sunday, and she got see, and I'm wearing one of our awareness t-shirts. So Patty got this wonderful mug as a door prize. I'm glad you like it, Patty. I think this is gorgeous. I think I might just carry this in the IC Network store. Any purchases you make when you buy this stuff over on icawareness.org, all the money donated from that is going right to research. It's going to be donated to Kim Peters at Beaumont Hospital. So we got 2 different mugs, t-shirts, all sorts. Oh, God. I want to break that. I like that. All right. Hold on. And I am on my yoga ball right now. So if I'm bouncy and squirmy, that's why. Christina says, you left your voicemail with your email. And Christina, yes, I've got it right here. You're at the top of the list, my dear. So I will try to call you after stream, okay? If it's not too late. You just didn't you didn't leave your last name on your message. So hello, Allison from New Zealand. Tanya says, just curious if topical estrogen I'm using for atrophy will cause the menopause belly. How long do we use this? You know, the topical estrogen, girl, you're going to be using for the rest of your life in all likelihood. You know, because your body is using that little tiny bit of estrogen to produce that protective mucus. I had a consult with my pelvic pain specialist today. Because I'll tell you what happened to me. It's so interesting, and this is going to come back to your question here. So I had vulvodynia in my 20s in high school. Yeah, no, it started in high school, where you feel like somebody's rubbed sandpaper across your vulva. And I remember my doctor back then saying, Jill, you have the most sensitive vulva I have ever seen. It's like, okay. And so I had it for a couple of years, and then it went away. And then it came back last February. And it came back with this really weird sensation. It was like little needle pricks on my vulva. Like, what the hell? And it started right at the top, right along the hairline. It wasn't on the inside, it was on the outside. It started on the hairline, and then it moved down the length of the vulva over a period of a couple of days until I had prickles that entire length of the hairline. And it was pretty bad. I mean, so I head over to the doctor, and they gave me yeast stuff. He thought he saw yeast. I did yeast stuff for 6 weeks, 2 prescriptions of diflucan, lots of creams, all that sort of stuff. Nothing worked. And then another OBGYN, what did she do? She thought it was chemical dermatitis because what was interesting is it was in the shape of a mini pad. And I was wearing mini pads at the time. And she goes, as she looked at the redness, I was bright red down there. She goes, Jill, do you wear mini pads? I'm like, I do. She goes, stop. This is in the shape of a mini pad. And we see this all the time with topical dermatitis, right? And they did a biopsy, deep tissue biopsy, all that sort of stuff. Well, her stuff didn't work. And so I finally got to the pelvic pain specialist in San Francisco. And what was interesting to me is I felt it more on my left side rather than my right side. And so the pelvic pain specialist looked at all the data and then looked at the fact that I have left SI joint dysfunction as well as left side adhesions, and went, Jill, I think you have a nerve compression. And so what she did is she put me on a estrogen lidocaine compounded cream jelly, which I've been using now for a month. And I'm like already 80% better from that, combined with pelvic floor physical therapy to try to figure out or to try to release the muscle around my SI joint that is pushing that nerve. And I just had a consult with her like an hour ago on the phone. And I told her, I said, I've never associated pudendal nerve entrapment with vulvar symptoms. And she goes, oh yeah. And it's like, okay, I'm a believer. Because I noticed also that if I laid on my left side, I would get zinged every now and then. And it's all about this stupid SI joint messing with my pelvic floor. So anyway, so getting back to your question now, the topical estrogen is really, really important for skin health. I use it religiously. It has improved my skin health dramatically down there. I don't have any information about it triggering menopause belly. Menopause belly, every woman gets anyway. And I don't think they understand why menopause belly occurs, but I think it has to do with estrogen management. That's my guess here. Alexa says, can someone please help me understand why Preleaf has oh my effing, are you kidding me? What? Do not tell me that the new bottles of Preleaf, oh my God, are you kidding? Hold on. Hold your horses. Hold the front door. What? Hold on. Hold your horses. I gotta call my staff. Hold on. Whoa. I can tell you what, it's probably titanium dioxide. Oh my fucking God. Okay, they're not answering. I knew it, man. I knew it. I knew today was going to be a day. Please answer. Please answer. Texting is beginning. I'm going to have them open up a new case of Preleaf and we'll look at it. Whoa. Hold on. Hold on. I got to try one more thing. Let's see if I can get an answer. No, they're on the phone. Okay, so before we're done, I'm going to have them go open up a new case, and please do not let this happen to another product. Oh my God. I am going to be so freaking pissed off. Okay, so this bottle does not have a cancer warning on it. This does not have a cancer warning on it. This does not have. Oh my God. Hey, Alexis, could you do me a giant favor? Could you take a screenshot? Could you take a? Can you take a picture of that bottle that has a cancer warning on it and email it to me like pronto, so I can look at it? Because thankfully I am prepared. I know what to do. Are you kidding? Oh my God. Okay. So my email address is icnetwork@mac.com. So Alexis, if you're still in chat, do you have a cell phone? Can you please take a close-up picture of that label and send it to me? icnetwork@mac.com. Please. Oh my God. Hold on. Whoa. Let me text somebody. Like, are you kidding me? Are you? Oh, there goes a fire bomber flying overhead. That's not good. Hold on. I need you to check the newest bottles of pre-leaf for a cancer warning. ASAP. All right. I'll get an answer for you. icnetwork@mac.com. Alexis, please take a picture of that and mail it to me right away. I'm checking my email right now. Okay, I don't have it yet. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Ooh. Now, you just saw me get a little animated, right? You should have seen me reading the Elmer on I thing. That was nothing compared to what I was doing reading the Elmer and I research exactly a year ago. I was crying. I was screaming. I was like, are you kidding? I get upset for you. I get upset for all of us. Molly says, when endometriosis is surgically removed, can it come back? Yes. Yeah, it can, because it's not like it's not like, oh, how do I explain this? Endometriosis starts out as microscopic cells. They cannot remove all of those. They cannot visually see them. So they're going to remove everything that they can see, but it always leaves a chance that some microscopic cells were left behind that are in fact growing. Lou says, we can't get pre-leaf over here in the United Kingdom when you all say you're using it. You don't understand. You know, Lou, every country has its own products. A lot of people in the United Kingdom buy pre-leaf from us and we send it over to them. Unfortunately, it costs a hell of a lot to ship it. But you could actually do like a quarter teaspoon of baking soda in a glass of water, 1/4 of a teaspoon, half a teaspoon at the most. Some people on pre-leaf have said do a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons. That's way too much. Just a little tiny bit of sodium bicarbonate in a glass of water can do exactly the same thing that pre-leaf would do, or you can just do Tums. Tums is also a calcium product. Lisa says, waiting on an Uber, just saw a functional medicine doctor, 2,000 later, many tests to be done later. It's not sure I know how to feel about that. Lisa, well, let's see what the testing does. I mean, girl, I applaud you for opening every door you can to try to understand your unique case of pelvic pain, because your case, hon, is very, very, very different and very interesting. Cheryl says she's been in a horrible flare for the past 3 days. So Cheryl, what kind of flare are you having? Are you having a bladder wall flare or a pelvic floor flare or a hormone flare? Do you know? Brick says Tums in water or just eat it. You can just suck on the Tums and chase it with a glass of water. Oh, so it's not on the bottle. It's on Amazon. Um, hold on. Let me log into our seller account on Amazon because we sell on Amazon too. And let me see. Oh, hold on. Got to switch accounts. It's trying to log in from my personal account. I can't do that. It has to be on the business account. I can't do it. It's doing two-party verification up in my warehouse. I can't do it. So, all right. So much for being the CEO. All right, there goes another firebomber. That's not good. Hold on. Okay, well. Oh, the adventure, it continues. All righty. Linda says, what's going on with Elmeron? You've been on it for 3 years. Linda, Elmeron, long-term Elmeron use is now associated with eye damage, pigmentary maculopathy. It's very absolutely devastating for the IC patient population. We learned this a year ago. We've been talking extensively about it in these support group meetings. Let me get the article and I can show you the pictures. There goes another firebomber. Uh-oh. Okay, so guys, I'm just warning you right now. Clearly, there's a fire somewhere fairly close because the fire bombers are flying over right now. And so if I disappear suddenly, it means they've turned the power off. Okay, so I apologize in advance. But we're just gonna keep on keeping on. This is my life right now. Okay, so let me explain what happened. Let me drink some water first. Okay. But in for 3, out for 3. Okay. One more time. In for 3, out for 3. My life is crazy. Okay. So let me tell you what happened with the Elmeron thing, Linda. So it was exactly a year and 3 weeks ago, that I was over on the National Library of Medicine website and looking for ideas to do articles on IC. And I found this little tiny reference to a letter to the editor to an IC article. And the letter was interesting. I have everything right here. So it was an article on IC on clinical trial entry requirements, right? But it was, I don't know, there's something that just caught my attention. And so I went to the Journal of Urology website and actually read the article, which I happen to have right here. So this is the exact letter to the editor that was sent to the Journal of Urology a year ago. It said, to the editor, as mentioned by the authors, only 2 FDA-approved therapies for IC currently exist: oral pentosan polysulfate, which we know is Elmeron, and intravesical DMSO. We wish to alert readers to a concerning new observation of vision-threatening retinal changes associated with long-term exposure to pentosan. We recently reported our findings of retinal pigmentary changes in 6 patients undergoing long-term therapy with pentosan polysulfate. These patients received anywhere from 200 to 400 milligrams daily for a median duration of 15 years. Examination findings in patients are suggestive of injury to the retina. All right. So then I'm reading this going, what? I go over and I buy the article. And here is their article. Pigmentary maculopathy associated with chronic exposure to pentosan polysulfate. And it is what we call a case series. A case study is when they share the story of one patient. A case series is where they share the story of more than one patient. In this case, it's 6 patients. And so basically, they had a group of patients who were referred to their clinic over an 18-month period. And they all had something very odd that they had never seen before. And I have pictures of it. But their first symptoms was blurred vision and difficulty transitioning from light to dark, or from dark to light. Big changes in environmental light. And as they were looking at these patients, they ruled out all the potential causes of genetics, everything else. And as they were doing their reviews, the one thing they figured out is that they were all IC patients and they were all taking Elmeron. So then they looked at their population of IC patients and they separated them. The patients using Elmeron and the patients not using Elmeron. The patients not using Elmeron had none of these visual changes. The patients using Elmeron had these visual symptoms. And so when they looked at their retina, now what they saw over time was changes in the the actual color of retinal cells. And so this is early, this is mid-time, this is later. And look, you can see a dramatic worsening of these symptoms. So they had more. They were actually working with 38 IC patients, but this article just profiled 6 of those 38. 2 patients described the initial visual symptom as generalized dimming of their vision. 2 others described difficulty with near vision. 1 noted scotomas. Most patients had difficulty reading as their most bothersome symptom. And all patients described difficulty with dark adaptation. Now, their assumption was that it was long-term use, because with this group of patients, most of these patients had been using Elmeron for 20 years or more. However, out of these 6 patients, 1 patient had only been using Elmeron for 6 years, and she happened to have the worst form of damage. So although their mean duration was 15 years, you need to kind of understand here that for 1 patient, it was just 6 years. Now they posited, let's see here, hold on. Clinical findings in this series suggest a pattern of retinal pigmentary disease manifesting initially with changes that lead to atrophy in some eyes. Patients reported a median of 186 months of exposure. So they did their due diligence, right? Because, I mean, I'll tell you, I've been around for a long time. Elmeron was approved in 1996. I'd already been IC support group leader for 3 years at that time. Nowhere did anybody ever talk, the company ever talk about eye issues, ever. You know, in all their patient education materials, of which I have quite a few. Let's see here. Oops. Hey, you know it's not a support group meeting if something doesn't fall in here. So look, I have some of the original brochures for Elmeron from back then. And here we go. Important safety information. It's a weak blood thinner, which may increase bleeding. Tell your doctor if you're pregnant or have liver problems. The most common side effects are hair loss, diarrhea, nausea, blood in stool, headache, rash, upset stomach, dizziness, bruising, yada, yada. Nowhere in here do they talk about eye issues. Nowhere. Nowhere. However, if you look at the Elmeron safety sheet, literally the last side effect are changes in vision. And so these doctors at Emory University, they went back to that original study, the study of 2,499 patients who took Elmeron for up to 4 years that led to the FDA approval of Elmeron. In that study, vision-related adverse events were reported. So this research study found back in the 90s that patients taking Elmeron could have optic neuritis, amblyopia, and retinal hemorrhage. Now that's just mind-blowing. I mean, right? That is absolutely mind-blowing. That you don't see a discussion of eye issues in the Elmeron patient materials like this, but if you look at that tiny print of the product safety sheet, you will find one little line about eye issues. Now, the other thing here was, or the other case that they tried to make is it possible that somebody with a bladder disease could have a related eye disease? And, trying to understand that mechanism of action. How would the bladder influence the eye, and how would the eye influence the bladder? And they could find no credible statement that would support that there's no connection between your eyesight and your bladder health. There is a connection between your eyesight and medications. Let's see here. They also say that it resembles macular degeneration. And so for patients who have been diagnosed with macular degeneration, they think that it could actually be this issue too. So then, getting back to the original letter to the editor, the authors of that paper have an opportunity to reply to letters to the editor. So the authors to that paper, which were Rob Moldwin and Curtis Nickel, replied to that letter to the editor, and they said, Pierce et al. Are looking for a platform to let the urology community know about their observations regarding the long-term use of Pitocin and potential ophthalmological complications. While their letter has nothing to do with the article, which it didn't, we are happy that they have a chance to present their observations. They describe a toxic maculopathy characterized by symptoms of difficulty reading, prolonged dark adaptation in patients on Pitocin. The association is quite clearly laid out in their recent publication, which was this. And this is what they say. Pitocin, which received conditional FDA approval in 1986, has been prescribed to tens of thousands of patients, perhaps hundreds of thousands of patients with IC. The optimal dose, pharmacokinetics, mode of action, and even efficacy remain unclear, although safety was never considered a major issue. Many patients with IC remain on this medication for years and even decades, and it is quite unlikely that urologists treating patients with IC would have ever made this association, because even ophthalmologists have difficulty differentiating this from other macular disorders. Yet, the implications are either frightening if our treatment is causing this condition, or instructive if the condition is a previously unknown manifestation of IC, which we can't support at all. Okay. So anyway, I'm just like reading this going, Holy Mother of God, how do we do this? Because thousands of you have used Elmeron. And we've never faced anything like this in the IC community at all. So I immediately emailed our medical board and said, have you seen this article? Do you have any comments on this? And should we credibility test this with the survey? And Rob Moldman and I designed a survey, sent it to all of them. Rob Moldman replied and said, excellent survey, let's do it. And he gave me some suggestions. So I read the article on Friday, I had the survey up by Saturday. We now have 1,200 people who have taken the survey who have used Elmeron, approximately 1,200. 53%, 53 report retinal disease. Astonishing. Astonishing. So then I sent the data to Phil Hanno, the chairman of the AUA committee for IC, the American Urology Association committee that created the guidelines for IC. And I said, here's my data. What do you think? He replied, he goes, this is, number one, he said, this is fantastic work. Thank you for doing this work. You need to send this to the FDA immediately. And so we sent our data to the FDA with a request that they change the label of Elmeron, suggesting that they put a warning in there about eye vision changes and encouraging patients to get their eyes examined twice a year to make sure none of these vision changes are happening, because apparently they are permanent. They believe that they are permanent. And if you're taking Elmeron and you have any change in your vision, you need to come to our website, print out the article, take it to your eye doctor, and have them check that immediately. Because the Emory eye doctors say you should get off of the Elmeron immediately to stop the progression of it. Now, since then, we have 2 more studies. We had a study presented at AUA by the same team of researchers. And then we just had a clinical, a multi-center study from retinal specialists around the United States, each of whom are reporting that they are treating Elmeron patients. I was told, and I don't remember by who, so this is secondhand. I was told at the National Ophthalmology Conference, when they surveyed the audience, that every ophthalmologist in the audience said they were treating patients who had taken Elmeron. So this is not a little deal. This is a huge, huge issue. And while some doctors have poo-pooed it and said, hey, it's only a case series of 6 people, yada, 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 take my word for it. This is much bigger. And our own survey, as informal as it is, shows that it is in fact bigger. And so Linda said, should I get off the medicine? Well, no, Linda, you need to bring the article to your doctor and educate your doctor about this issue. And then you need to go have your eyes examined. I will tell you that most of the patients that I've worked with, including here on Facebook, there goes another firebomber. Most of the patients, I'm sorry, the number 6 patient in that case series, the girl who had only taken it 6 years. So by the time she was 28 years old, she was having very serious eye problems, has actually been in a couple of our support group meetings here. And so, Linda, you need to have a really clear discussion with your doctor about the risks versus benefits, your eyesight, maybe get your eyes examined, maybe consider reducing the dose. He needs to read the article. You need to read the article to decide what to do. I'm going to tell you quite honestly that this is just one more strike against Elmeron. I mean, it's super expensive. It has a lot of other side effects. It's just hard. It's a hard medication for patients to take. Most patients who cannot afford Elmeron have switched instead to the supplements, like the Bladder Builder, the Bladder Rest, Desert Harvest Aloe, etc. I don't want this to. Hey, hold on a sec. Let me see if I can get them again. Hold on. I want to see if I can. Hey, I'm doing a live stream right now, so this is live, but nobody can hear you. Um, Somebody pointed out in our live stream that on Preleaf, on Amazon, Preleaf now has a Prop 65 warning. Yeah, really. Can you believe it? Like, no. Could you do me a favor and run out to the warehouse and look at the newest Preleaf and take a look at the labels and see if there's any Prop 65 warnings on them? I do. Yeah, and if they do, can you take a picture of it and so that I can look at it? All right, thank you, hon. I appreciate that. Okay, bye-bye. All right, so we will have an answer to the Preleaf question soon. All righty then. On YouTube. So you guys, if I'm looking up here, I'm looking at Facebook. If I'm looking down here, I'm looking at YouTube. Brooke says, Elmeron made me very sick and it was so expensive. My urologist has resorted to hydrodistension every 6 months for me. I wish they'd come out with something better. Brooke, girl, come on now. You got to look at the subtyping. Let's try to figure out what your subtype is. Because there may be other treatments available. There are a hell of a lot of supplements out there that are really helping people that you could try too, that have a similar effect. A supplement that contains chondroitin hyaluronate has the same bladder coating effect we think that Elmeron does. And so patients turned to supplements years ago, 15 years ago, when they couldn't take Elmeron. Cystoprotect was the most popular supplement for a long time, but Cystoprotect right now has the same Prop 65 warning. And so we should be getting the new reformulated Cystoprotect in a month or two. But in the meantime, I mean, the better supplement by far anyway is Bladder Builder. So that is currently available, or Bladder Rest, which is actually cheaper and better. So Donna says, if anybody else is having a flare, hugs to everyone. Absolutely. Donna, did you get my package? Hopefully you got my package. Brooke, are any of you on painkillers? I'm on gabapentin and tramadol. I know it's hard to get painkillers sometimes, with the gabapentin has helped so much. Feel like you kind of have your life back. Girl, I am so glad that you've got some pain medicine. The American Urology Association is incredibly supportive of the use of pain medicine. But they don't want you to just take medicine. We want to try to address the problem in the first place. The most common cause of severe pain in an IC patient is an untreated Hunner's lesion. So we want to make sure Hunner's lesions are treated. Donna says she's taking gabapentin along with CBD oil, Bladder Builder, and Peora. Yeah, baby. So Alexis on Amazon, it's probably an ingredient or related to the plastic in some way. Calcium glycerophosphate is not a known carcinogen. If it happens to contain titanium dioxide, the Prop 65 warning would be triggered by the titanium dioxide. And we're going to get an answer for you, okay? Thank you for bringing this to our attention. Lou says, had a bladder stone due to a car accident. My bones of pelvis and hip smashed, calcium formed. I knew something was wrong. Took 6 months to find them. By then, it had torn your bladder, scarred it, then got IC, gave me antibiotics for over a year before I saw a consultant who gave me amitriptyline low dose, changed your diet. Okay, so Lou, you know what? Your story is so incredibly important. You know, I have a patient story that I think is so incredibly important, and it is of a patient who was afraid to have a cystoscopy, and she wouldn't let anybody look in her bladder for a couple of years. Just take it off. And when she finally let the doctor look in her bladder, what they found was a really large bladder stone that was cutting her bladder wall. And as soon as they broke it up and got it out of her, she was healed. Her bladder healed and her symptoms went away. And so the fact that you had bladder stones and that they found the bladder stones is really, really encouraging. Bladder stones and kidney stones are rough little suckers. They have sharp edges because they're made of crystals. They're made of calcium oxalate crystals. They are sharp. If you've ever had anybody who's ever had an indwelling catheter, a catheter that is in your body for more than 24 hours, you know that when they pull it out, it hurts like a mofo. Okay, why? Because when that catheter is sitting in urine, the crystals in your urine precipitate onto it. It settles onto it, and so that catheter ends up covered with, all the way around with these little tiny sharp crystals, and it's brutal, brutal. Let's see. All right, that was somebody else. Okay, that was Gussie Grips, who is a fantastic physical therapist in England. We've been having a debate about caffeine and IC. All right, on Twitter. Chris says, "Did the power go out at your place during the night?" No, it didn't. It went out at 4 a.m. 1 mile up the road, 1 or 2 miles up the road, but it didn't hit us. But Chris, fire bombers are flying over right now, going somewhere. It looks like they're going like Lake Berryessa area. Also, is it true that you used to have big biceps by female standards? No, man, I'm long and skinny. I'm tall and skinny. I never had big biceps. Yeah. I pay for a gym membership and I don't go, and that's so stupid. Allison said, "Where's the warning?" It's on Amazon. Amazon now requires every seller to list any Prop 65 stuff, and some sellers are just doing it for everything and they're not explaining why, but I'm going to get an answer for this. I promise. I'm going to get an answer for this. Alexa says it will only come up if it's being shipped to you in California. You know what? Let me test that. Let me do a new private window where my IP address is hidden, and let's look. Hello, Dad. You guys want to see my come here? Come here. You saw my mom. Here, you got to meet my dad. You have to squat down. This is my dad. He's 96 years old. Jack Osborne. He will be 97 on Veterans Day.
If I'm still alive. Thank you.
And he's Jack, and I'm Jill. And we were a really good doubles team. Jack and Jill Osborne. We got a whole bunch of trophies. Still in the family room. All right. So let me look here. That's interesting. You're right. The Prop 65. The Prop 65 warning on pre-leaf did not come up when I used a private window. At least I don't see it. So that's fascinating. It is a law. It is a California law. The California law says that people have the right to know if they're being exposed to something known to cause cancer. And titanium dioxide, a white coloring flavoring, or not a flavoring, it's a coloring. It's in candy, it's in toothpaste, is on the list as a cancer causer if you breathe it in, but it is FDA approved if you eat it. But I will tell you that it is already banned in some countries because of other deep concerns. And so you're going to see it being taken out of everything because now that it's true. Elmeron has titanium dioxide in it. So Elmeron prescriptions are going to come with Prop 65 warnings. Thank you, Alexis. I appreciate your help very much. Heather said, if it's painful for a reason. That's what needs to be addressed slowly. Botox to the pelvic floor was very helpful to Heather. Ironically, my pelvic pain specialist, she said I was going to offer you Botox for your vulvar symptoms, but it's not good when you have a SI dysfunction. It can cause other big problems. So yeah, and I'm better anyway. Alexis, I will get to the bottom. I know the top dogs at DSC Healthcare. I will get an answer for this. I promise you tomorrow. Angie says, you know my pelvic floor physical therapy story all the way to dry needling. At home now, I use a TheraWand and TheraCane, but I could barely walk before physical therapy, and now I bounce like a spring chicken. Except for my internal bladder pain, which instills are helping. But my pelvic muscles are squeezing my bladder so much. But I'm a lot better due to physical therapy, and it's a full-time job. It does not stop when the appointments do. You have to do the work. Girl, we need to print that on a t-shirt because you nailed it. The most important part of pelvic floor work really isn't you going to the physical therapist. It's what you do when you get home. You have to do the work. You've got to do the stretches. Don't be passive aggressive about it. And we got some really, really good books that can help you understand that. For those of you struggling with pelvic floor, Ending Female Pelvic Pain, Ending Male Pelvic Pain, and Heal Pelvic Pain. Let me show them to you. See? Alrighty then. So for anybody struggling with pelvic floor issues, please invest in one of these books. For men, Ending Male Pelvic Pain, fabulous book written by one of the best physical therapists in the world. She also has the same book for women, Ending Female Pelvic Pain. Or, so that's Isa Herrera is the author. Or you can do Heal Pelvic Pain by Amy Stein, and you can get these over on the IC Network website in our shop. And when you do that, you support this live chat. So we really appreciate it when you buy from us. Linda says she has an appointment on October 6th with her urologist and is going to drill him about the Elmeron. I'm going to tell you right now, Linda, he's probably not going to know a damn thing about it. You need to bring the articles. Bring the articles, okay? Allison said she just got 4 bottles last week and there's no cancer warning on it. Okay, that's good. So I'll figure it out. I'll get an answer. Okay, Teresa says she got a new bottle of Pre-Leaf, expires in May of 2022, and there's no titanium dioxide in it. So it looks like they probably just put it out of an abundance of caution, but I will check it out. My email address, Allison, icnetwork at Macintosh computer, so mac.com. Linda, where do you get the article? Over on the IC Network website. Just go to icnetwork.org, go into the blog section, and you'll find it. And there goes another firebomber. Yeah. Lauren says, I'm new to chat. What does Pre-Leaf do? Pre-Leaf helps to reduce the acid level of anything that you're eating, so that it doesn't irritate your bladder. So if you're going to have some coffee, or if you go to grandmother's house and have her fantastic tomato-based pasta that would normally irritate your bladder if you've got Hunner's lesions or bladder wall-driven IC, but what that does is do that. All right, so my sister Janice went out to the warehouse, which is up on her ranch. Actually, that's where people who work for the IC Network work, is up on her ranch, in a ranch building. Thank God, hallelujah. She says that the new bottles have nothing on the label, but at all. But there is a pop-up for Prop 65 for people buying in California. All right, so I will talk to them tomorrow. Gina says, is the IC support t-shirt available in the ICN shop? No, it's available over on icawareness.org because this is one of our Awareness Month websites. We've got two designs. So one of the designs for shirts is this design, and one of the designs is the strong design, and you can get the shirts in different colors, lots of different shirts. And all the money that comes from the purchase of these is going to be donated to research. We haven't sold too many. I mean, so, guys, come on, go buy some and support research. We don't get any of it. None of it comes to me. None of it is going to be kept, is not benefiting the IC network in any way, shape, or form. It was going to go straight to research. Lauren says she takes a lot of Tums daily. I used to. Heidi says she's in the emergency room. Heidi, why are you in the emergency room? Catherine says, got your new IC Strong travel cup and journal today. Awesome. So she ordered them from the IC Awareness website. Awesome. Heidi, why are you in the emergency room? Nicole says, Jill, with the hydrodissension, he was only able to put 8 cc's of fluid into your bladder before it was pouring. Holy shit. Said your IC was the worst he treated. You feel more constant burning all the time. The pain is still intense when you avoid, but different. But you can at least sleep more than 30. Are you sure it's 8 cc's or is it 80 cc's? It's probably 80 because 8 cc's is like a tablespoon. So if it was pouring out blood, hon, you've got Hunter's lesions. What did he, was he able to go in and look at your bladder wall, and was he able to cauterize anything? Hunter's lesions are known for what we call a waterfall-like effect. They bleed profusely when they get stretched. And so the real question is, okay, number one, it bled, but number two, what are they doing about it? What did they do about it? They should have cauterized it or injected it with a steroid. Christina says, I tried Elmeron twice and almost had a car accident. It blurred your vision and made you dizzy. Well, I'm glad you're not on it. And that blurred vision was reported in the early study. So, and Christina says, also said her hair fell out. There goes another fire bummer. My sister Jan, who is also a chemist, by the way, we're all scientists in our family. She went to the Prop 65 website and checked the ingredients in pre-leaf to see if any of them triggered a warning, and they don't. So clearly, this is just it might be related to the plastic of the bottle. So again, I'll get an answer tomorrow. I don't think you need to be worried about the pill itself, but I will get an answer. Stephanie says, what do you think the risk might be of using Elmeron in daily bladder installations? Is that something I should be concerned about? Should I consider switching to heparin? Well, there's a huge difference between a topical medication as compared to an oral medication. When you take a medication orally, it is distributed throughout your body via the bloodstream. And so that's why, oral estrogen is so strongly associated with cancers, because the estrogen is distributed to the breast, it is distributed to the uterus and the cervix and wherever else it would go. Whereas a topical administration of estrogen, as an example, tends to stay in that area. It does not hit the blood. It does not hit the blood supply to any great degree where it would be centered throughout the body. And so we can make that same case for an Elmeron bladder installation. The bladder wall is actually very, very difficult to get through. It has to be. From an evolutionary standpoint, the toughest skin in the human body is, in fact, the bladder wall. And that is because its purpose is to keep toxins out of out of the tissue. So as an example here, so here we go. So this is a three-dimensional picture of what your bladder should look like. There is an upper mucosal barrier that protects, the 4 to 5 layers of urothelial cells underneath them. Unfortunately, this mucosal barrier was never designed for today's massive acid load. Remember, our bodies were designed for life thousands of years ago. The only acid they had 5,000 years ago was fruit, only when it was in season. They didn't have coffee. They didn't have lemonade. They didn't have orange juice every day. They didn't have tomato sauce every day. And so we can argue, I think very, very successfully that the mucosal barrier has evolutionary limits, especially depending upon where your family comes from. My family's from Northern Europe, Northern Norway, and Sweden. There was no fruit up there other than berries. Whereas somebody perhaps who grew up, whose family is around the equator, they would have had access to a lot more fruit, more year round. So their bodies would have had the opportunity to build better defenses. But anyway, regardless, today's diet is traumatic to tissue, especially if you're drinking coffee all day or soda all day. Eventually, you're going to hit a point where that mucosal barrier just can't defend itself and it starts eating away at that coating. So what happens then? Bam. Urine gets past that protective layer and gets down here. Now, let me show you, I think the picture of the decade for me came out in this article from the Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis. And I want to show this to you. This is so freaking cool. So let me do it this way. Okay. Hold on. If you were to look at the bladder, a healthy bladder wall from the top down using an electron microscope. I want to try to isolate this picture. Okay, look. This right here is what a normal, healthy bladder wall looks like. Hexagons. Isn't that cool? So it's under an electron microscope, a bladder wall looks like a beehive. It's got these beautiful hexagonal cells with what we call very tight junctions. So the connections between these cells and the other are very, very tight. The point here is to make sure that nothing gets through this down to this layer of cells underneath here, and of course, blood vessels and nerves. Now, here's why this picture is so freaking awesome. Look at this. These little white spots here, those are white blood cells attacking a bladder infection. So the cell underneath here is infected. And so your body is sending its warriors, the leukocytes, to the area to kill the infection. So look, we have infection here. We have infection here. We have infection in this whole group. Whoops. In that group. And look, you can see a cell that's missing. The infection successfully destroyed this cell. And so now the white blood cells are going to the next layer of cells, which we can see right here. So when you get a bladder infection, it tunnels downward. It'll kill this cell, then this cell, and it'll just infect cells as it goes down. And look at that. You can freaking see this here. So look, the cell is missing. So the bacteria are now deeper. And here are your body's mighty warriors trying to kill this infection. Isn't that neat? That is so freaking neat. And I don't know, the bladder can have grooves in it. So you can see that we've got kind of this thing going here. And I don't know why that's there. All I can tell you is that this right here is normal tissue. This is normal. This right here, bumpy, granular, white blood cells everywhere. How is that for a freaking cool picture, right? I think that deserves a Nobel Prize. That comes out of Scott Holkren's lab, who's he's the guy who's been studying E. coli and how E. coli adapts and can defend itself against antibiotics. So anyway, okay, so Stephanie, I'm sorry, my long-winded answer to your question. The bladder, it's very hard to get medication across the bladder wall. So you were saying, what about the safety and risk of using Elmeron in a bladder installation? It's slim compared to taking it orally. Most of that medication is going to stay right there in that tissue. But you can, you also can, you could try the heparin too. It's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. There's been a shortage of heparin, so doctors were switching to Elmeron, and a shortage of lidocaine. There are all sorts of shortages right now. Hello, Deborah in Salt Lake City. Nice to meet you. Alexis says you already have lattice degeneration of the retinas, and so if you already have a major retinal disease, you should not be using Elmeron at all. Thank you, straight out of Blue Ridge, Georgia. She says, oh no, Jill, I just had eye surgery less than a year ago. Top doctor in our area. I have to get busy with my doc. All new to me. So just so you know, since you're in Georgia, all this research came from Georgia. It came from Emory University in Atlanta. And so you guys are the epicenter kind of for all of this eye research. And so they can reach out to the doctors at Emory and get on that list. Nicole said there were no lesions. He said it was just horrible. My prior urologist, so Nicole is the one who had just had a hydrodistension and her bladder bled profusely. So he said there were no lesions. He said it was just horrible. My prior urologist said I had Hunner's lesions and did Kenalog injections, but they were not lasting. Now you're on your, okay, now girl, now listen. Okay, hold on a sec. Now you're on your 6th week of Elmeron, 3rd month of Mirbatrek. Take Preleap before every meal. You suffer from Crohn's. Half of your large intestine was removed. Your bladder issues began 2 years ago. It's getting the runaround until you did your own research, went to the urologist, told them your opinion, you had IC, did an in-office cysto and said your bladder was pissed off, no pun intended. After 18 months of installations, I transferred my care to a specialist in Missouri who is 3 hours away, but my new specialist seems more involved. Nicole, it was you who was bleeding profusely, right? Okay, so Nicole, like seriously, what if you don't have lesions? What the hell was bleeding? How did he explain the bleeding? It makes absolutely no sense. It makes absolutely no sense because it's the lesions that bleed, and so I don't understand how he could say you don't have lesions. You don't say where you live, but girl, you need a second opinion from a really good IC doctor. If you can find your way to Robert Evans at Wake Forest or Ken Peters up in Michigan or Rob Moldwin in New York or Phil Hanno or Chris Payne in California, this is not making any sense to me. And if you've got lesions, Elmeron is a waste of time. Lesions need to be treated correctly. And if the triamcinolone injections, the steroid injections didn't work, did they ever cauterize them? And ultimately you would probably really benefit from hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which has now been found to be helpful for patients with lesions. We did an article on that in our, which one did we do it in? Here it is. So this is in our winter one. hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So you can get that on our website. You guys, when you sign up for a membership on our website, you get if you get the email subscription, you get 4 previous issues and 4 future issues. So you could get all those. So you get 8 total issues for $25 a year. If you want it mailed to you, it's $50, but you get 3 years worth of back issues by email. And if you do the big membership, it's 5 years worth, 20 back magazines as well as future magazines, along with a cookbook and some other stuff. But that, Nicole, that doesn't make sense. I don't understand how he could say you don't have lesions, but how the hell did he explain the bleeding and what the hell was bleeding? Lauren says, well, that explains 2 to 3 days post-op, they still cannot get your catheter out. Lauren, so did they keep your catheter in after a hydrodistension? You guys, there's a lot of people talking over on Facebook, so I can't see it. Did they put the catheter in? Did they send you home from the hospital with a catheter after a hydrodistension? Because if they did, that means they ruptured your bladder. Karen is asking what warning on pre-leaf. There's a warning popping up on Amazon for California customers, Prop 65 warning with no explanation. So we're going to get to the bottom of it. Hi, Jill. Is there a guide to the Easy Therapeutic Wand? I want to know how to use it. There are no pelvic floor physical therapists here in Mexico. Rocio, the books will show you how to use a wand. I'm pretty sure. Let's look. So here's Heal Pelvic Pain. Let's see if so obviously she has a lot of exercises in here and things like do, but let's see if she It's interesting. I look through all these pictures of these images, and I'm very proud that I can do almost all these exercises and that I do them regularly. All right. I don't see anything in here that talks about it. No. Okay. So let's look at this one. So we're going to look at this one, Mari. Or Rocio. I'm sorry. Not Mari. Rocio. Theracane, is that it? Oh, I wish these indexes were a little bit more. It's not coming up in the index. I swear I saw it in here. Oh, look at this. I just discovered she actually wrote me a note. I just went right to the table of contents. Oh yeah, here it is. Chapter 9, decreasing pelvic floor muscle pain with internal dilator stretches and internal hands-on techniques. Page 160. So look, they have a picture of a wand, and we have wands in our store. I use one myself. And what they do is they they use a clock diagram. So if you're laying on your back, the top of your body is 12, the bottom of your body is 6, and then you got 3 and 9. And then they give you, they tell you where to do it. So they've got internal pelvic floor myofascial release, clock stretches, internal pelvic floor muscle trigger point release. Yeah, so Rocio, and then you want to check the manufacturer website. I know that this one, what did I do with it? IC Relief is the brand that we recommend. And let me, let me show you. Let me show you. There's, so this is what it looks like. This is an internal dilator. And this company, IC Release, has 3 different ones. They have a straight one, they have a curved one, and they have a longer curved one for women who have trouble reaching the area. And you know, I mean, listen here. None of us thought we would ever be laying on our bed, sticking something up there to try to help us. It is such a foreign concept. And yet these muscles are so deep inside of you, you can't reach them externally. You've got to go internally. And the success stories are nothing short of breathtakingly good. And I'm a success story in that after I had my hysterectomy, I had terrible pelvic floor spasms for 10 months. And it was pelvic floor physical therapy combined with something like this that broke me out of that agonizing flare. But the first time I tried to use it and this was probably 8 months post surgery, and I accidentally touched the incision point, you know, where my cervix used to be, was like, oh my God, that's awful. And you know, it was so awful at first to touch fresh surgical skin. I remember I walked out of my bedroom and walked into the kitchen, bent over, and I said to my dad, because it was like 1 in the morning, I was like, that was terrible. He's like, what? I go, I just tried to do my internal work. And I said, oh my God, it's just the feeling of it was weird. Okay, but 3 times later, we had stopped the spasms. So it's weird. I know it's freaking weird, but it works. You know, it works. And the research shows it. In 2008, when the pelvic floor physical therapy study came out, it was a multi-center study around the United States with hundreds and hundreds of patients. Pelvic floor physical therapy reduced the symptoms of IC in a vast number of patients. And when that study came out in 2008, that's the one that put the IC movement on its head, because up to that point, everybody was thinking IC was an incurable bladder disease. If it's an incurable bladder disease, why the hell would pelvic floor physical therapy reduce symptoms? And that was when everybody went, oh, wait a second. Maybe, just maybe, for some of us, it's a muscle issue. And now we know with the subtyping that the muscle issue is very, very common. Brenda is in the hospital too. Molly says, my hair's been falling out in clumps. I'm not on Elmeron. Should I be concerned? Yeah, you should definitely talk to your doctor about it, because the other time that my hair falls out is when my thyroid gets messed up. My thyroid gets messed up, my hair also will fall out like mad. But remember too that we shed as people. So that, and we really do. There 1 or 2 times a year where we definitely lose more hair. And so you might just be going through a natural process. But for me, as soon as my hair starts falling out and collecting at the bottom of the shower, I know my thyroid's off. Nicole says, okay, we're going back to Nicole, whose bladder was bleeding profusely after a hydrodistension. She put 8. He said there was nothing he could do while he was in there. He told my husband he usually gets. Yeah, no, your numbers are wrong, hun. So it's not 8. It's probably 80 and 300. 30 and 8. That makes no sense. It's not. He says there's nothing he could do, but what was bleeding? What was bleeding? That's the most important question here, is what was bleeding? Extremely tight and fragile tissue over the entire bladder was his explanation. Well, Nicole, I mean, the other thing we want to look at is estrogen atrophy. I can't tell from your picture how old you are. If you're menopausal, then we know that your skin down there is going to get dry. So if your vulva is dry, your vagina is dry, so is your urethra and so is your bladder. Hello, Karen. Nice to see you. So that would explain a very fragile bladder wall potentially could just be estrogen atrophy. So where are you with your estrogen levels? And do you have a dry vulva? Deborah says, what's a hydrodistension? It's a test where they fill your bladder with fluid to look at it more closely, and then they use a cystoscope to look at it. Frida says, does it mean that blood in UTIs is because of lesions? No, the blood in UTI is because the infection has progressed through the bladder wall, through the 4 layers of the bladder wall down to blood vessels. Anytime, so remember, so you've got this mucosal barrier, and then you've got these 4 to 5 layers of cells here. So if that infection is able to work its way down here to the blood vessels and create wounds, that's what's going to bleed. Sherry says, doesn't the glomerations cause terrible pain and also bleed? I no longer have Hunter's ulcers, but I have terrible pain after I eat. Yeah, but it's really night and day, hun. And we've got videos on the IC network to show it. And if I could do the screen share, I would do it, but the screen share was failing. If you go look at in fact, over on YouTube, and I've got links to both of them on our website, there's a hydrodistension of a bladder with glomerations and a hydrodistension of a bladder with ulcers. And they're very, very different. So the ulcers really bleed much more. I mean, it's like a waterfall of blood. That's what they call it, a waterfall effect. But the fact that you don't have Hunter's ulcers, but you have pain if you eat and before and after you pee, then that tells us that, clearly your bladder wall is involved to some degree. You don't have Hunter's ulcers, so that's good. But what is the quality and health of your skin down there? And do you have estrogen atrophy? And or is there something else that could explain that, whether it's a chemical irritant or perhaps a chronic infection? Could there be a chronic fungal infection? It was our own National Institutes of Health MAP research network who found that patients flaring often had an overgrowth of fungus in their urine, a fungal infection. So there's been a lot of hype and a lot of discussion about chronic bacterial infection, but you could have chronic fungal infection. That would be equally devastating. And for those patients who are taking antibiotics, but they've made no attempt to identify the trigger, that's a tragedy, because antibiotics would only make a fungal infection worse. I was having a nice email discussion with Robert Evans about this, actually, because I sent all the doctors a message asking for comments and about how we should address the chronic bacterial questions. And what he said, and I would be happy to read his email, is that white blood cells don't just happen for infection. White blood cells happen for inflammation. White blood cells happen for several different reasons besides just infection. And so to assume that if there are white blood cells in the bladder, to assume that that's bacterial infection, that is a mistake, because it could be other things too. And that's from the top IC doctor in the United States. Laura is on a princess cruise in the Panama Canal. Now there you go. Hey Laura, I hope you're having a great time. And how's the bathroom access? You got good bathrooms on that princess cruise? I have never been on a cruise, never. Dominica says, Jill, what's the latest gag replenishment theory? Are people finding relief with this type of treatment? If so, which drugs are used for it? From a traditional drug standpoint, you got Elmeron, which is pentosan polysulfate, which has a gag replenishment effect. One of the challenges with Elmeron, though, and I don't remember the source off the top of my head, but it is a very, very small molecule. So think about it this way. So look, you've got a big area to fill. And in fact, this is an Elmeron educational brochure. And so, in fact, this is how they show what Elmeron does. Elmeron basically creates a coating. What they don't show you is that it is very, very, very small molecules. And so the molecules are very easy to wash out of the bladder. And I just was having a discussion with one of the top doctors about this sometime in the last 6 months. Elmeron would be the oral way to do it. Or from a gag layer perspective, you could do hyaluronate, also known as cystostat, or chondroitin installations known as Uracyst. Those have a bladder coating effect. And now they combine the two together, not available in the United States. I think it's called Ialuril. That combination as a bladder installation is better than the ingredients separate. Orally, it's really about taking a supplement that has the same ingredients, chondroitin and hyaluronate. So the supplements that come here, ball. So the supplements that we suggest that have a bladder coating effect, and of course you're still dealing with the same issue that you deal with Elmeron, and that is if you swallowed a Band-Aid, would you expect it to come out the other end of Band-Aid? The answer is no, you got digestion. And with Elmeron, we know that only 3 to 6% of the Elmeron arrives in the bladder to do anything. Most of it is destroyed by digestion. And that's why Elmeron is kind of a hard medication for patients to take, because you got to take a lot of it over a long period of time for it to build up any coating. And when you take a lot of it, that's when you run the risk of side effects. So the question then is, well, how much hyaluronate and how much chondroitin arrives in the bladder to be successful? And we don't know. We don't know. There's only been one bioavailability study done on a gag layer replenishment, and that was an early Elmeron study by Baker Norton. I don't believe that anybody has done anything like that since then. So the supplements that have the chondroitin and the hyaluronate are going to be Bladder Builder, Bladder Rest, Cysterino, or you can get the aloe they have an allochondroitin one that you can get also. So those are the supplements that kind of have a ganglia replacement. But ultimately, in the end, you know, why did they create Elmeron in the first place? Why would they have created Elmeron in the first place? And the answer was, this was straight from Dr. Parsons, is that not every patient could tolerate a catheter. So how to get medication to the bladder that did not involve using a catheter, and that's exactly why they worked on Elmeron. But it is an undeniable fact that putting medication directly on the target organ is the most effective way, because 100% of the medication arrives where it needs to be and it's not destroyed by digestion. So Dominica, this is why people are doing home rescue installations, home heparin installations, home Elmeron installations with lidocaine, because 100% of the medication arrives at the target organ. It is what it is. It is what it is. And I bet it's interesting thinking of it like that, thinking of it that way, right? Oh, Lauren says, after her endometriosis surgeries, they always leave the cath in after you wake up, and then they can't get it out because it hurts so bad. They usually don't try to remove the cath until 48 hours post-op, and it takes loads of pain meds and lots of tears and screaming for them to remove it. Yeah, it's because of the crystals, hon. Well, and also probably very tight muscles just from the trauma of the surgery too. But those crystals on the catheter can just basically cut the urethra as they come out. It's brutal. Hey guys, let me look at something real. I gotta look at something here real quick. Give me a moment. I just want to check something. Here it is. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Well, we don't shed like dogs, but we do shed. I mean, maybe shedding isn't quite the right word, but I mean, seriously, we go through periods of time where we lose more hair. It's fairly normal. And especially if you've had anesthesia, you've had surgery, then your hair really falls. About 3 months after the surgery, as the part that was under your skin grows out, it's very normal for patients to lose more hair after some sort of surgery. Lori says, if my urine is always orange, is that blood from IC? Well, yeah, blood is not normally orange. Blood is normally pink. Are you taking pyridium? Are you taking the medication that turns your urine orange? Peggy Sue says, what is subtyping? Subtyping is the new trend in IC, where what they're trying to do now is do a more specific diagnosis based upon your unique presentation of symptoms. And so, again, we no longer think that everybody has an incurable bladder disease. We now understand that there are other structures in the pelvis which can trigger the symptoms that we associate with the bladder: frequency, urgency, pressure, pain. And if you were here earlier, we had a patient with fibroids who had IC symptoms, and their Tarlov cyst off the spinal cord can cause IC symptoms. pelvic floor muscle issues can cause IC symptoms. So now what's happening is there's kind of a very interesting race among clinicians and researchers around the world. Everybody's trying to create their own subtyping system or phenotyping system. Some doctors are doing phenotypes based upon biopsy results and what they see under a microscope. Others are doing it based upon clinical symptoms. And so in Europe, for example, there are 16 variants of IC or bladder pain syndrome based upon biopsy results and what they see. In Canada, they use a different system. In the United States, we do not have an agreed upon subtyping system, but I use the subtyping system that was created by Dr. Christopher Payne, who ran the IC research program at Stanford University for 25 years. And he proposes 5 core variants of IC. And when he introduced the subtypes, he did it in a really provocative way, because he basically said, we should be treating IC patients like cancer patients. And of course, now, like in my brain, I'm going, why would you say cancer and scare patients? Because there's no relationship between IC and cancer. And he said, no, you're misunderstanding. That when somebody is diagnosed with cancer, they don't just say you have cancer. They say you have cancer of the left breast that is estrogen dependent type 1 through 3. Or they might say you have complex endometrial hyperplasia with atypia and a vague architectural complex, also known as early uterine cancer, which is what I had 2 years ago. A diagnosis of cancer is so specific. Both the patient and the doctor not only know their prognosis, they know what their treatment options are. They know exactly what they should be doing next. And he argues very, very, very successfully that a diagnosis of IC offers no intuitive treatment pathway. That a diagnosis of IC leaves kind of the patient and the doctor going, all right, what do we do now? And so he argues that by creating a more specific diagnosis, you as a patient and your doctor will have a more obvious treatment pathway. I hope that makes sense. So here are his subtypes. So again, Christopher Payne, he's now at vistaurology.com. Vista Urology in San Jose, California. He retired from Stanford and went into private practice with his wife, Jeanette Potts, who is also a pelvic pain specialist. In his system, subtype number 1 is Hunner's lesions. Everybody in the world agrees this is its own separate, unique group of patients. And when we look at their biopsy results and their pathologies, it's very different from everybody else. And interestingly, Hunner's lesions have now been linked to some viral infections. So again, y'all are thinking bacterial infection for the bladder. Stop doing that, because now we know the bladder can be infected by virus, and we know the bladder can be infected by fungus. All right. So Hunner's lesions, its own unique group with its own unique treatments. Elmeron is not a treatment for a Hunner's lesion. A Hunner's lesion treatment is laser therapy or steroid injection, and you can read about that over on our website, the IC Network. IC subtype 2, bladder wall driven. So these are the patients whose symptoms are clearly coming from their bladder wall. We know that because they have pain as their bladder and discomfort as their bladder fills with urine that is relieved by urination. So the fuller they get, the worse they feel, but as soon as they pee, they feel better. And there's an explanation for that. Let me show you a picture to explain why that happens. Okay. So here is a typical injured bladder. These are petechial hemorrhages or glomulations in a bladder. So now imagine what happens as your bladder fills with urine. So slowly over time, urine fills up. Everywhere there's a wound, urine gets into that wound and it hurts. So the fuller you get, it's like the worst. Ow, 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 ow. Oh my God, where's the bathroom? I need to pee now. Right? And then as soon as you pee, bam, urine is no longer on the wound and you feel better. So pain and discomfort as your bladder fills with urine that is relieved by urination points us to your bladder wall. So that tells us you're bladder wall driven. But there are variants in this. Not everybody's the same. For some patients, this is triggered by chemical irritation, like chemotherapy or drinking too much Mountain Dew or too much Monster or energy drinks or anything like that. Something that's, or cranberry juice or orange juice or lemonade or limeade. All right. So we know chemicals can irritate the bladder. We know that menopause will play a role in bladder health. If you are over the age of 50 and menopausal, you don't have a lot of mucus in there anymore because you don't have a lot of estrogen. That mucus is estrogen dependent. So your bladder's going to be more sensitive and vulnerable with menopause. And then we can also throw into this fungal infection and a chronic fungal infection, yeast infection, or chronic bladder infection. I know that there are some people who want to say everybody has chronic bacterial infection. It couldn't be farther from the truth, in my opinion. And this subtyping proves it. Okay, IC subtype 3 is the biggest subtype, and this is pelvic floor. So these are the patients whose symptoms begin after some sort of direct pelvic trauma. So I was working with a lady last week who, we had a long conversation, and it's always interesting to try to go back in history and try to figure out what was the triggering event. And was it related to some sort of pelvic trauma? And I've worked with a handful of patients who, as children, were run over by cars. Worked with a man who was run over right across his pelvis, and he had a crushing injury to his pelvis. His pelvis was crushed. 8 or 9 years old. He's now in his 50s, and he's had a lifetime of problems from that crushing injury. And with this woman that I was working with who had been diagnosed with IC, like we go back in time, and it's, man, it's, you guys don't give up the information. I really have to work hard to get you to go back in time and try to figure this out. She had been run over by a bus down the left side of her body, from her shoulder down her hip and down her leg, and it had crushed the left side of her pelvis and had affected her SI joint. She had massive scar tissue on that side. And that, we think, was, she wasn't responding to typical bladder therapies, and which makes total sense to me, because her muscles are so tight she can't have sex, but she's never had pelvic floor physical therapy. So we had to get her to physical therapy or at least to a pelvic floor specialist to try to understand what the state of her muscles are, to see if that's contributing to her symptoms. So for these pelvic floor patients, their symptoms are subtly different. They got the frequency, urgency, pressure, pain, but there's often a burning quality to it, a vaginal burning or a rectal burning quality to it, because a muscle that's working hard is a muscle that builds up lactic acid, and that burns. So that vaginal burning, rectal burning, it often points to tight pelvic floor muscles. A heaviness, feeling like you're carrying a bowling ball around in your belly, feeling like something's coming out of you, falling down, or being shoved up inside of you. That could be pelvic floor. Pain after urination rather than before urination points to the pelvic floor. And most of all, if you can't start your urine stream right away, if you go to the toilet and you have to sit or stand there for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds before you can empty your urine and start your urine stream, that points to tight pelvic floor muscles. So obviously the therapy for that patient is not going to be Elmeron. And the odds are, when they look in that patient's bladder, their bladder is going to be pretty good. My bladder is perfectly healthy because my dominant problem is pelvic floor. Okay. The fourth subtype is pudendal neuralgia. This is basically a nerve compression. This is something else that I'm struggling with right now. Basically what happens is that your muscles get so tight, they squeeze nerves, and you end up with positional symptoms. So you're fine when you stand, but when you sit down, it hurts, or when you bend over, it hurts. And as I shared earlier, what I didn't know is that a pudendal neuralgia can also cause vulvar prickling, which is what I've had from this stupid SI problem that I have. Okay, and we're doing lidocaine to calm things down. Okay, the last subtype is central sensitization. I see subtype 5 in his system. And these are the patients where we often see genetics at play. Like every generation of women in my family, going back 3 or 4 generations, have super sensitive skin. We have a sensitive stomach. We have a sensitive bladder. We have a sensitive bowel. We have a wicked sense of smell. We can smell things that other people can't smell, and smells really drive us crazy. We are very drug sensitive. We are food sensitive. We are chemically sensitive, not just with our bladder, but with our whole body. And that means that we have inherited a more sensitive nervous system. That is not a disease. That's usually the gift of our ancestors. Sometimes it happens after trauma, a major trauma of some type, where nerves near the area have also been traumatized. And so in these cases, our therapeutic priority is to calm nerves. And anybody with central sensitization, the odds are you might not have known the name of it, but you've already adapted your daily life to it. You don't have chemicals in your home. You don't have scented candles or Febreze or stuff like that. And you've grown up that way. And again, not a disease, but life is hard in 2019 with chemical sensitivity because there's a lot triggering us all day, a lot of man-made chemicals. Here, hold on. I'm all sticky. my yoga ball is sticky. It's a sweat. All right, what am I going to sit on next? Am I going to sit on that, or I'm going to sit on that? Welcome to the life of somebody with an SI. Okay, we're going to go for the next stool, which is it's like a slinky. And I'm going to use this on top of it. With the towel. Welcome to my daily sitting drama. Okay, let's see how long that lasts. Okay, I was going to say something there, but bam, it's gone now. Okay, so there you go. Those are the subtypes. Lady Harley says, hi, Jill. What if you have Tarlov cysts on top of IC? What do you do for pain? Well, number one, you try to get the Tarlov cysts treated. Can they treat your cyst? Because and I know it's tricky. A Tarlov cyst is a little pocket of spinal fluid that emerges from in between discs, and it collects spinal fluid, and they can get quite large, and they start pushing on nerves and stuff. And so, you'll have to. I'm not an expert in Tarlov cysts, hon. I wish I were, but I'm not. But what do you do for pain? Boy, that's a good question, because I don't. Hold on. Let's just use Google here. So hold on. Tarlov cyst. Let's see what. So Tarlov cyst surgery involves exposing the region of the spine where the cyst is located. The cyst is opened and the fluid is drained. And then in order to prevent the fluid from returning, the cyst is occluded with a fibrin glue injection or other matter. It is in the National Organization of Rare Disorders, and there is an information page from the National Institutes of Health. Let's go there. So here's from the National Institutes of Health. Tarlov cysts may be drained and shunted to relieve pressure and pain, but relief is only temporary and fluid buildup in the cyst will recur. Corticosteroid injections may help relieve pain temporarily. Other drugs may be prescribed to treat pain. Injecting the cyst with fibrin glue, which is a combination of naturally occurring substances based on the clotting factor in blood, may provide temporary relief of pain. Some individuals report that changes in their diet or the addition of nutritional supplements to alter alkalinity or acidity balance in the body may have helped to that's clearly whoever wrote this didn't understand the connection between the bladder and Tarlov cysts sometimes. Microsurgical removal of the cyst may be an option in select individuals who do not respond to conservative therapies. Tarlov cysts cause nerve pain, as well as weakness and nerve root compression. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? All right, girl. So you got to do some reading. Go back to your doctor. Elise, are the t-shirts available in the IC? They're not in the IC network shop. They're on icawareness.org. I will put them in the shop though if you want. I'd be happy to put them in the shop. I can do that. Easy peasy. I think we're just going to start carrying some of these. We used to sell a lot of clothes on the IC network because clothes, tight clothes and things like that, don't work for us. And so we used to sell some really great. In fact, I still have some cotton knit yoga clothes that they're just fantastic. They just lasted forever. I still have a pair, and it was like 15 years ago, and I still wear them. I love them. But we had an issue with return. It's hard with returns and people returning clothes that they've worn, and they say they haven't worn it, but it's really obvious that they've worn it. And so I prefer to use a print on demand so that you can work with that company. We just give the design, you order whatever you want, and you got to work out the sizing with somebody else. Because we ended up donating a whole bunch of shirts to a homeless shelter, which was fine. Happy to do it. But sizing is challenging. But I certainly want to carry the mugs and all that sort of stuff. And I've got new. By the way, we just ordered new car magnets. And I ordered a set of car magnets that say IC Warrior. So that's going to be fun. Only got 125, but we're going to have new IC Warrior car magnets and new IC Awareness car magnets. Mindy says, I now realize thanks to you, I have pelvic floor dysfunction. Scary, but also giving me hope. And you don't need to be scared about pelvic floor dysfunction. I mean, muscles are, muscles respond beautifully to muscle work. I think the challenge is that we get so disconnected from our bodies in daily life. Whether we're sitting for long periods of time at work or whatever, or just running around, we forget. We allow things to get more and more dysfunctional, and we don't stop and go, is this normal? Until sometimes it's not that it's too late. It's just that it's a harder job to fix. You got to be really persistent. Nancy says, I had petechiae in my scope. Doctor said it was from E. coli infection. Bladder wall correct. I'm getting installations. Can I heal this? Petechiae isn't always from infection, hun. Petechiae, and it depends upon the type of infection. It could be a bladder infection, a fungal infection, but petechiae are also happen with chemical exposure. So I don't know that you can make that generalization, but I'm assuming that if they've done the appropriate testing and they found E. coli, then power to it, So again, this is a picture of a superficial infection of the bladder wall. And is this E. coli? Oh, let's see. I didn't. It didn't print out right for me to see that. But I am loving this picture. I think this is so freaking cool. So again, normal cells, infected cell, and these are your own white blood cells trying to kill the infection. They are our army. The challenge though, and guys, let me just say this here. So look at this model here, right? So remember, your white blood cells are your personal army. Okay, they are the things that go to any part of your body where there's a problem to try to fix things. So and the whole messaging thing is fascinating. It's like, especially here in the bladder wall. So you have an infection here, and somehow a chemical reaction happens where there's a message sent from these cells that gets to the circulatory system and the immune system, which then causes the white blood cells to come, right? But if you don't have a protective coating and urine is getting down here, let's just say acid, So we've got acid penetrating in here, not bacteria, but acid. Your body is still going to send white blood cells. Your body's going, what the hell is this? Something is invading. I need to send my army. But when your army gets there, when the white blood cells get there, there's no infection to kill. It's chemical irritants. It's a fascinating physiological, pathway. Kathy says, the doctor just gave me something called FD Guard. It has triethyl citrate and methyl acrylic acid copolymer. What do they give it to you for? FD, I gotta look this up. What the hell is that? FD Guard? Oh, here it is. It's a non-prescription option for functional dyspepsia for your stomach. So you must be having some stomach issues. So basically indigestion, recurring indigestion. So FD Guard is a medical food for the dietary management of functional dyspepsia. Gastroenterologist recommended. So what are the ingredients here? Each FD Guard capsule contains caraway oil and L-menthol, the primary component of peppermint oil. A combination of caraway and menthol has been shown in clinical studies to be effective in the management of FD. Okay, and we knew that because peppermint oil capsules have been used for irritable bowel. We know that peppermint is a smooth muscle relaxant, that if you're ever going to have a colonoscopy, drinking a peppermint tea before the colonoscopy has been known to reduce the smooth muscle spasms. So let me look at the rest of these ingredients here. It's got fiber in it. It's got amino acids in it. I don't know. It doesn't have, I don't see those ingredients in this, but it's not showing me. Let's see if Amazon has the label. Here's the label. And of course, it's not the part of the label with the ingredients. All right, here's the label. This is from Rite Aid, from the Rite Aid website. Each capsule contains 25 milligrams caraway oil, 20.7 milligrams of menthol, other ingredients. Look at that, methyl acrylic acid copolymer. God, it sounds like car paint. Okay, hold on a sec. Let's see what the hell this is. It's an inactive ingredient from pharmaceutical manufacturing. It's a solid white powder. It's used in enteric coatings for the fast dissolution in upper bowel, for granulation of drug substances in a powder form for controlled release. It is typically released in the duodenum. So it sounds like it is it helps with drug absorption, hun. I mean, listen, if you wanted to go all natural, you could just try peppermint oil capsules. Help for IBS, helpforibs.com, Heather's Tummy Fiber, they have a peppermint oil capsule. Of course, the challenge with peppermint oil is if you have GERD, you're going to be belching hot peppermint for hours, and that doesn't work for some people. I don't know, hun. I mean, it doesn't look terrible to me. It doesn't look terrible to me. I mean, they got to have some inert ingredients in it to get it through the equipment and to help with the availability, to help it get into your gut and be absorbed into your gut. So if your doctor recommended it, I mean, I thought I never want to get in between a patient and their doctor. It doesn't, that ingredient, speaking as somebody with a pharmacology degree, that ingredient doesn't, it makes sense. I mean, it'd be nice if it were something else, but it is what it is. Okay. I have a red spot on my nose. What the hell is that? It's the end of the day, guys. Kathy says, I was supposed to be on that Princess Cruise. Sherry says, thank you for the explanation on glomerations. I had a hysterectomy in my 20s. I'm 60, was diagnosed with estrogen atrophy 6 months ago. Vulva and vaginal atrophy. Doctor didn't say bladder atrophy. I don't think they describe it as bladder atrophy. They describe it as the genitourinary syndrome of menopause. Juanita, Bladder, we got our Bladder rest shipment a couple of days ago. So we have Bladder rest right now. Is it sold out somewhere? Let me take a look here. We just got 1,000 bottles of Bladder rest. I know that because my bank account is empty now. Let me take a look here real quick. Yeah, it's in stock in our store, hun. We have a lot more than what we have in our store. We've got 1,000 bottles now. And also we just put Bladder Rest on Amazon fulfillment, so you'll be able to get Amazon Prime. But they were transferring it to another. I sent them 100 bottles just to try it out, and they decided to move them to another distribution center. That would take 5 days. So, and just know too, Juanita, that it's always going to be cheaper on our website. I immediately add $5 to anything we sell on Amazon because that's their cut. That's what they take, $5 or $6 out of the purchases. Lori says, no, you're not on Peridium. Your urine is really orange? I've been working with somebody who has green urine. How that's just crazy. He has green urine. And he's had green urine for 6 months. So, according to a website, in some cases, orange urine can indicate that you might be having an issue with a bile duct, especially if you have light-colored stools. There could be a liver or bile duct issue. Dehydration, which can concentrate your urine and make it deeper in color, can also make your urine appear orange. So, when in doubt, talk to your doctor. Here, guys, I'll be right back. Bio break. Anybody need to pee? I do. Be back in a minute. You know what? In the meantime, give me just a minute and I shall return. All right. Okay. Oh, yeah, baby. All right. Alrighty then. I trust everybody is empty. Angela says, I'm having trouble finding a doctor. My move to Texas. Any recommendations for a doctor in the state of Tennessee? Please go check our website. We have a database on our website of doctors. And I apologize in advance. I haven't updated it in a while, and it desperately needs to be updated. Lily says, Jill, do you know Dr. Michael Shea at George Washington University? He is a board member of the ICA, and he seems to use next generation testing. I don't know him personally because we don't work with the ICA. You know, the ICA does their own thing. They have their own playground. They don't play in the sandbox with other groups. It's good to know he's using it, though. That's cool. Lily says, you're thinking about traveling from California to Washington, D.C. for a consult? I don't know any, normally when people come from California, they're going to go see Robert Evans at Wake Forest or Ken Peters. I don't know any doctors who've gone to see Michael Shea, but I don't know him personally, and he wouldn't come up in our conversations. So, has he written an article? Is there an article you can give me that I can read? Allison says, sent you a picture of the pre-leaf I bought from iHerb in an email. All right. Thank you, Allison. Okay. I don't have it yet, unless you sent it earlier. Sherry says, green urine can possibly be urogesic blue. Yeah, but he wasn't taking anything. It wasn't that. It all started for him after an extended course of antibiotics. Yeah. You guys, for all of you who have doctors that you think treat IC really well, would you please make sure that you nominate them for Doctor of the Year? Nominate them for Doctor of the Year through icawareness.org right there, right? Go right there and nominate them, because that's also how we know who to add to our list. We will contact them and say, would you like referrals for other patients? And most of them say, sure. Some say, no, they don't. But that's how we figure out who the good doctor is. We don't just take business cards. We want patients to tell us who treats them well. Lisa says, I love my car magnet. I was leery about it staying on. Yeah, mine does too. Now, but you say you think you're having a panic attack. The appointment with the functional medicine doctor really freaked you out. Okay. So what's rule number one with this? Number one, oxygen. So let's do 3 slow, deep breaths. In, out. I'm looking at you. In, out. One more time. In, out. Okay. Oxygen renders adrenaline inactive. So whenever you're starting to feel like you're getting overwhelmed, Lisa, I want you to do 3 slow, deep breaths. Like literally, if you need to do it every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, do it. Let's just get that adrenaline level under control. And now let's put that point into context here, because, hon, listen, your case is a very, very unique case, and you are in search of answers. And you're going to have lots of doctors. They're going to be looking at a wide gamut of things that could be contributing to your pain. And they're going to ask you a lot of questions that are going to be overwhelming. And they're going to mention this, and they're going to mention that, and they're going to mention this. And you're going to go, what? Wait, stop. Oh my God. Right? Which is what you're doing right now, which is exactly what you're doing right now. But here's the reality. You are at home. You are safe. You are warm. You have doctors who care about you. You are doing everything you need to do to get the answers you're looking for, and I applaud you for that. You're doing great. You're doing great. And now you are Miss Marple, Hercule Poirot. You are on a journey to figure out what the hell is happening to your body. And if that doctor is going to help you solve that mystery, then don't be overwhelmed by it. It's just data. And we're going to follow every pathway we can until we can figure out what the hell is going on. You guys, I work with Lisa. Lisa and I have worked together for quite some time now. And, she is a perfect example of the uniqueness in IC and vulvodynia and pelvic floor and whatever the hell is going on there. We are, why one of the reasons why I love you guys so much is that, and I say this all the time when I talk to people on the phone, it's like we are sisters and brothers. And you have, Lisa, right now, you've got people who are standing not in front of you and not behind you, but next to you. Arms extended with love and and kindness and friendship. You are not alone. You'll never be alone again. We are here. We care, and we want to really try to support you through this journey. But I think it's time now. Listen, you've done a lot of medical stuff today, and if you're feeling overwhelmed, it's time to stop. It's time to go do something different. It's time to empty out your head of all the medical stuff. It's time to laugh. It's time to watch a video. It's time to watch Dr. Pimple Popper. No, that's medical. That's medical. Don't do that. I love watching Dr. Pimple Popper because I'm weird. I'm weird. It's hysterical. I think her show's hysterical. But I mean, come on. Let's just focus on something else for a while. Sleep on it overnight. Tomorrow we're gonna start making some notes. And I'd love to talk to you on the phone, and let's see what we can do to try to get you through this, okay? Girl, I'm talking to you. And my phone is always open, right? Patty's going to friends to play board games. Do it. Man, go have fun. Liz says, Jill, I had a baby about 3 months ago and I have a new burning symptom. It feels like a hot part of icy hot is going from the inner hip, from inner hip to inner hip. Peeing doesn't help it. Laying down kind of does. It's also in the entrance to your urethra is the entrance to your urethra supposed to burn after urination? That was my only symptom. So, Liz, that burning at the entrance to your urethra on the skin on the outside really speaks to the quality and health of your skin. And perhaps you've got some hormone-driven skin issues, estrogen atrophy, something going on there. Or you might, I mean, girl, you had a baby. And your pelvic floor is not the same. Your pelvic floor has been had hormones in it that weakened it so that it could stretch to hold the baby. And then it was all compressed and tightened because of labor. Your pelvic floor has been through hell. Normally, though, anytime you have pelvic floor issues like after this or weird pelvic issues after you have a baby, they would send you to pelvic floor physical therapy, or at least to a pelvic specialist to see if they could figure out what's going on. And the icy hot going from hip to hip is it is, to me, really pointing to a muscle that might be compressing a nerve. Anytime you got that heat cool sensation, I don't know. But I think you need to go to pelvic floor specialist. Go back to your OBGYN, describe the symptom or call them, send them an email, let them know what's going on. You have the icy hot is going from inner hip to inner hip. Peeing doesn't help. Laying down kind of does. So the fact that laying down kind of does, again, points to positional symptoms, points to maybe muscle pushing on nerves, and moving in a different position makes it better. You need to go back to your OBGYN. You also have polycystic ovarian syndrome. So that's probably what's going on with your urethra, but my OBGYN won't take my blood to check my hormones. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that's interesting. Polycystic ovarian syndrome. We're looking, I don't know. I'd have to do some research to really try to dive into where your hormones are right now, 3 months post having a baby with the PCOS. I just don't know. You need to go back to your doctor. It is confusing. You are a veritable mystery to be solved, my friend. All righty. Okay, well, how long have we been doing this? We have been doing this for about 3 hours because this is our second stream of the day. So I think it's time for a giveaway. What do y'all say? Don't you think we should do a giveaway to reward those of you who either arrived late or have stuck it out? And no, I'm not going to give away these. This is my little Halloween collection. Isn't that cute? I love these. I love these. Aren't those adorable? I'm very visual. I have to have fun things to look at. Alrighty. So there will be a Christmas tree there. sooner rather than later. So I think our giveaway is going to be a nice canvas tote bag. We'll have two, one for Facebook and one for YouTube. What do you say, my friends? What do you say? So, of course, it's not just easy. Lauren says, what do you do when you have two or three subtypes? You got to try to figure out what's primary and what's secondary. That's the challenge. What's primary and what's secondary? But ultimately, in the end, you're going to be working on everything. We want to try to work on everything. If your bladder wall is injured, we want to protect your bladder wall. If your pelvic floor is tight because of that, we want to make sure you're using heat. You're doing things that will try to relax your pelvic floor, staying fit, doing stretches, all sorts of things like that. And with the central sensitization, it's the landscape, it's the body. And that's what we do. Lisa says, who is Dr. Pimple Popper? Dr. Pimple Popper has a TV show on TLC, I think, and she's a dermatologist in Southern California who is hysterical. And people go to, and so she's had 3 seasons now, and they show patients from beginning to end. Sometimes they start at their home with what they've got. So some of them will have like a big giant knob, growing out of a shoulder, and it's a lipoma. It's a big area of fat, and she just cuts it open, pops them out. One lady had a horn coming out of her head, and that turned out to be, completely fixable and removable. And then you got some people who have genetic diseases where they have a lot of spots and a lot of bumps, and those stories are kind of heartbreaking. But the resilience of the human character is nothing short of astonishing. And if there's ever a group out there that's resilient, it's you guys. So Dr. Pimple Popper, go to your on-demand channel, or you can go to YouTube. You can see her on YouTube. All right, guys. So let's do a giveaway. We'll do a giveaway. So I need a good question here. I'm not making it easy anymore. It's got to be something that we have talked about. Let's see, what would be a good question? Oh, okay. How could I do this? I hate to ask the same question over and over again. That's the problem. So we've done that one. Oh, okay. Okay. So we'll go back to my all-time favorite picture. These hexagonal cells are the urothelium. They're the surface of the bladder wall. And they are known for having 2 words that keep them very close to the other cell, so nothing goes through it. Does anybody remember what I called that? Anybody remember? So urothelial cells have quote unquote blank blank, which keeps them smack dab together. It's not loose. Does anybody remember? This is a hard question. I'm testing your anatomy knowledge. This is for our giveaway. Okay, here's hint number 1. Here's hint number 1. There's an old TV show that was called Petticoat Blank. Anybody remember Petticoat Blank? You got to be old for that one. Oh, Lauren, you're almost there. You're almost there. Okay, you're not. Okay, Donna, you're almost there. It's not loose. It's Lauren Kilgore. Lauren Kilgore. Got it? On Facebook, on YouTube. Donna, you only have half of the answer. It's not loose. It's no, that's not the right word. Nope. A patient diagnosed with vaginismus has very blank pelvic floor muscles. Okay, so you guys on Facebook, you got it. Lauren Kilgore has. Okay, so the first person to put the two words together on YouTube. Oh, you're so close. Oh my God, you're so close. Not quite. Not quite, Donna. Elise, Patty, you guys are close. Donna, you're close. I know. Oh, okay. Oh, you guys. There you go. Patty got it. Donna. It's a tight junction. Tight junction. You said, Donna, you said junction to start, then you said joined, and then you said tightly joined. You were so close. You were so close. All right. It was a difficult question because you know what? You guys are tough bitches and you can handle difficult questions. In my opinion, this makes you stronger. Can you imagine walking into a urologist's office and going, hey, let's talk about tight junctions in my urothelium? Doctor's going to go, what? Oh my God. All right. All right. So our winners are Patty and Lauren Kilgore. Hey man, you know, when you come to an IC Network support group meeting, we're gonna teach you good stuff. All right, I will send those out tomorrow. All right, my friends, now listen. Now listen here. Every day is a new day. And I know that when you're dealing with pain and you're dealing with something like this, it is very, very easy to start thinking that all of your days are going to be difficult days. And I don't want you to do that. Number one, here's the first thing you can count on. The first thing you can count on is that the human body is wired to repair things. That's the white blood cells. If you fell and skinned your knee, you would have a scab on it tomorrow. Your body is trying to fix whatever the hell is going on. There's no doubt about that, 100%. But number two, you've got to support healing. And that's why if you're IC subtype 1, IC subtype 2, you're going to avoid acids and caffeine. If you're IC subtype 5, you're going to avoid caffeine. But if you are a pelvic floor patient, you're going to be making sure that you're doing things that are good for your pelvic floor, like getting up and walking around, like doing your stretches. Your job on a daily basis is to create an environment that will support healing of your pelvis. Your job also on a daily basis is to be persistent. I don't want you to be a patient. A patient. A patient implies you're going to go sit in a room and wait for the doctor to come in. That's not good enough. I want you to be a respant, RESPANT, a responsible participant in your medical care. What that means is squeaky wheel gets the grease. Don't sit there and wait for somebody to come to you. Be persistent. Pick up the phone. Call people. Be bold, and mighty forces shall come to thy aid. Be bold. You have the right to call people. You have the right to get a second opinion. You have the right for informed consent. You have the right to ask what they're planning on doing. It's hard when you don't feel good. It's hard that at a time when you just want to hide and you want to stay in bed, you instead have to get yourself up out of bed, get in the car, and go to the doctor and make an appointment. Even if you can only do one thing a day, do it. You know, there are some patients with IC where life goes on. They go to work, they go to church, they can handle whatever's going on, and power to them. It took me years to get there. My first couple of years were really rough, but I am living proof that things can get better. But if you're at that point where you are homebound, if you are at that point where walking or sitting hurts, I want to give you a hug. You are not alone. This is not your fault. There is no shame or blame with being hurt. I have been working with a wonderful guy who's become a very, very good friend who I told to go to the emergency room today because he was having trouble walking. A leg was giving out. He'd had something bad happen at the gym. And it's like, dude, get to the hospital right now. And he's like, oh, I don't really want to. It's like, dude, you're having trouble walking. Get to the hospital. What the hell are you waiting for? And that's kind of what you got to do too. If you're not improving, if you're not getting better, if you feel like you're getting worse, the American Urology Association is crystal clear. It's time to take a step back and revisit the diagnosis. If they've been treating you with Elmeron for years and you're not getting better, it's time to look at something besides Elmeron. If you're considering bladder removal, it's time to look instead at the subtypes. Have we missed something? It'd be a real shame to remove your bladder only to discover you've got a giant fibroid on your uterus pushing on your bladder. You literally are solving a mystery, and there are a lot of steps to that mystery. Don't be overwhelmed by that. It's really cool to be able to check things off. It's like, okay, had the next generation test, there's no fungus. Good. We can put that aside. Okay, had a pelvic floor assessment, it's tight. Okay, I got something I need to work with. Okay, wait a second. I have blood in my urine. Let's let them look at my bladder. Look in the bladder, got a Hunter's lesion. Okay, that's good news. Let's treat it. At least we're taking the mystery out of it, right? We don't you deserve better than a guess. You deserve facts. And if you're not getting the results you need, taking a step back, revisiting the diagnosis, and perhaps getting a second opinion would absolutely make sense at this point in time. We have a list of doctors on our website. You can certainly check those out, see if there's somebody else in your area. We also have a list of the best doctors in the country that you can go to and get a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh appointment. What I don't want you to do, and I'm looking at you, I do not want you to go into your bedroom and shut the door and read Facebook IC posts. I don't want you to rewatch this video. I don't want you to pull out a book. For God's sake, would you do something else? Do something light. Let's break it a little bit. Remember, context matters with pain. If you are focusing on sad things all day, things that are upsetting you, you're only going to intensify that pain. You remember the pain accompanied by tears and stress, the brain will exaggerate that pain because the brain thinks that your life is at stake. Whereas pain that's accompanied by laughter, the brain will minimize because the brain thinks that this is not life threatening. That's context that happens in the midbrain anytime you're in pain. So I'm giving you 5 pieces of homework. 15 minutes a day, do something for your spirit. Today, tonight, read your Bible if you like to read the Bible. Listen to John Denver. If you like to listen to John Denver, go sit and watch the moonlight. If you like to do that, do something for 15 minutes that will be peaceful and will give you a little bit of comfort. For 15 minutes a day, do something for your bladder or your pelvis, whether it's your physical therapy or following your diet, do something to support your health. For 15 minutes a day, you got to do something to improve your knowledge. If we were still screen share, I've got like 25 journal articles to read right now on all new studies. Really, seriously, can you read an article a day? And not a Facebook article. For God's sake, go to a website, go to the National Library of Medicine, read something real, okay, rather than somebody's opinion. And let's read a research study. For 15 minutes a day, I need you for the next week to do something for IC awareness. Could you please make a meme, design a poster, send it in? You could make $100. You know, creativity is a wonderful way to express your pain. Another really important thing to do with your pain is rather than sit in your bedroom and cry, and we've all done it, only in my case, what I would do is I would go lay on my living room floor and cry and pray. What I want you to do is I want you to get a pen and a piece of paper, and I want you to write down everything that you're feeling. Describe the pain. Where is it? What does it feel like? I want you to describe how your life has changed. I want you to pour that rage out on that piece of paper. And then I want you to send it to your congressman and your senator and say, we need help. We need research money to understand this. This is what I live with on a daily basis. Can you please help me? Use that pain constructively, my friends. Express it. No shame here. No shame here. You got to tell them what it feels like for men and women. And last but not least, for 15 minutes a day, actually 30 minutes a day, I want you to watch funny videos. Do something fun or watch, even if you can't do it, watch something fun. Okay, watch something fun. And that's where the Amazon shines. You know what? Watching videos, funny cat videos works for me. Facebook, watching funny videos works. But we need to break the frustration with some laughter. I also really believe in journaling. I think some of us, we get very, very wound up with our stress and tension, and we just start spinning in one place. And it's like we just don't even know how to stop ourselves and take a step forward. And to me, the way I interpret that is, especially if there's a lot of anxiety involved, is that you're just stuck in a loop of anxiety. And it's very important to express it. You just got to get it out of your body. And you got to get it out of your body every day. And so journaling is really good. Write this is what I did for years. Write 3 pages longhand before you even get out of bed. It's like, you know what? I am not going to let my day be dominated by anger. I am going to write it out now. I'm not going to let my day be a day of catastrophizing where I'm worrying about this or that. You know what? I'm just getting it all out on paper now. I am choosing. If I'm going to be angry, this is where it's funny. It's like, okay, sure, I'll be angry. Anger is a normal emotion, but I don't want to be angry for 10 hours. I'm going to pick my time to be angry. Pick a time. You want to be angry? You got my permission to be angry. Be angry from 10 to 10:30. Stomp around your house. You know what? Get in the shower. Scream in the shower if you need to do that. You know, but put an end to it. You got to put an end on that anger, because living in that anger is hard. It's important to get it out, just like it's important to get the anxiety out. And so journaling 3 pages longhand in the morning and 3 pages longhand before you go to bed. So you're emptying your body of the daily stresses before you go to bed. And what you do not do is you do not go back and read it. Don't read it. It's not about what you wrote. I don't want you to go psychoanalyze and read it and look at how sad that was. Look at how pathetic I was. No. No, 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 no. It is about just getting it out of your body. And so what do? You have a ceremonial burn. Once a year, once a week, burn it. Burn it. I don't care what you wrote. You can write I hate Jill Osborne. I don't care. That's okay. Yeah, I hate everybody who talks about IC. That's fine. You're entitled to that. Get it out of your body and then burn it. And you will be amazed at how much better you start feeling. It will stop you from spinning in place once you give it a voice. Hello, Erin Glidden. It's nice to see you. Hey, Erin, I hope you're going to enter IC Awareness poster. I don't think I've gotten one from you yet this year. Lauren Kilgore, yes, I do need your address, but I need you to email it to me, icnetwork@mac.com. Thank you, Angie. Perfect. Sherry, I'm bedbound. I'll take a hug. Girl, here it is, right there. Big giant hug for me. Deborah says, thank you so much for being here for IC Patients. I will certainly be subscribing to you. She says she has to go. Goodbye, hun. Goodbye, Deborah. Hello, Cheryl. Erin says she deleted an IC Facebook group because she was following it. It wasn't good for her. I don't even look at a Facebook IC groups at this point in time. I just can't. I cannot do IC 24 hours a day. I already do IC 12 hours a day. When I'm done, I go watch a mystery with my parents after dinner and usually take a nap after dinner for 20 minutes. I love that nap. I used to laugh at when they were kids, my parents were doing that. I totally get it now. So it's time for a Miss Marple. It's time for a Hercule Poirot, Midsummer Murder, one of those great mysteries. And then we all fall asleep, which is why we can watch them 5 times because everybody, and they'll fall asleep for an hour or two. I'll fall asleep for about 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But anyway. And then I play computer games and read a book and or talk with a friend. You just can't do IC all day. You got to bring other things into it and be creative, hon. Be creative. Use your creativity. I made dolls. I still make dolls and quilts every now and then when I can. I love working with my fingers. I would love to take a stained glass class. I just don't have the time. But I'd love to do stained glass and I'd love to do fused glass. And pottery is good. I like pottery, but centering was hard. Lauren says, you've helped so many people. Thank you. Oh, hon, you're so welcome. I'm happy to be here. What? Lauren said the Department of Justice got the research money for IC. Did I hear about that? Boy, I'd like to see that info. I know that they were pulling money from anywhere they could to fund the Blinken wall. Oh, don't even get me started. I had one of my protest shirts on earlier, but I didn't think you guys would appreciate that. So you got this one instead. Why am I crooked? Like I'm crooked right now. Okay, there you go. Lily, is there a next gen IC specialist in California that does next gen testing? Off the top of my head, I don't know, but Microgen has a list of doctors who do it. Erin, when is the last day you could submit a poster? I've the 30th, but I'm probably going to push it back another 2 weeks. So just when you can, okay? Cheryl says, so glad I switched on. You woke to a huge attack out of the blue. So happy to see you were on. You give us strength today. The DOD gets the money, the Department of Defense. Wouldn't well, the Department of Defense funds I mean, the biggest source of research right now, research money right now for IC funding is actually the Department of Defense. They give more money for research than the National Institutes of Health because they have something called the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program. And I sat as the IC patient representative on that committee for almost 10 years. Maybe even longer than that. They just put a limit on it, unfortunately. So you have to, like, I didn't do it last year. They have a 3-year term now, and then it has to go to somebody else. So I think somebody else is going to do it for 3 years. But what we did is we rated all the research studies that were seeking funding to decide who got the funding. And it was my job to get the researchers out of their head, because researchers love research. They love basic bladder studies. They love the nuance of trying to figure out, point A, point B, point C, what causes D to happen, and all that sort of stuff. And my job really was to get them to stop focusing on that and to focus on what patients need. I didn't want money going for projects that would take 20 years to pay off for the IC patient. I wanted money to be going to something that would give an IC patient a new resource within 5 years or less. And it was a real privilege to be on that committee. So some of the biggest research studies out there, I approved. I don't know what they're doing now because I haven't talked to them in about a year. Lauren, is it because the soldiers coming back from the war with IC? Well, the CDMRP research program is about military readiness. It's about combat readiness, and it's also about the care of veterans. And so it's a bit of both. It's a bit of both. We know stress makes people have more frequency, urgency. You can damn well bet if you're in a theater of operations, if you're on active duty over in the Middle East, that your stress level is going to be remarkably high. And have you ever considered how they pee? How do you pee? Now, for a guy, it's pretty easy. You just turn your back and whip it out. You can pee. How does a woman on active duty pee? But more importantly, how do you have a bowel movement? And so the stress and strain of that on normal physiological processes is undeniable. I've had some great conversations with active duty military, and I played with a lot of active duty military. And when I play World of Warcraft, which is a game I like to play every now and then, and we have had hysterical conversations about restroom access. And ultimately, in the end, it's like we park the Humvee this way, we park the other Humvee that way, then we hang something here, and there you go. That's where we do it. I love those guys. And if any of you have active duty in your family and you want to buy something, please call me personally and you will get a military discount. Aaron says, can IC start as a child, disappear for years and come back like 30 years? Aaron, that's a really, really good question. I mean, my IC symptoms, I had frequency urgency in 7th grade. For 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, I had it, and then it kind of went away and went into other stuff. Then I didn't have bladder pain until I was in my 30s. And then I got it under control, and then things calmed down, and then you got menopause. So I think what we have to do is think more about influences. So number one, you could be born with sensitive skin like me. And so it may be that your skin gets super sensitive during puberty, and then things calm down, and then things start acting up when you hit perimenopause again. I mean, that's one reasonable scenario. Another reasonable scenario is maybe you were injured as a child. Maybe you fell and you hit your tailbone as a child. Maybe you injured pelvic floor as a child, and that could be the basis for childhood symptoms. And that heals, but you can get hurt again when you're older. I mean, you can definitely get hurt again as you're older. So ultimately, again, it still comes right back to your subtype and what your variant of IC is. If your subtype is pelvic floor, again, we're tracing a lot of pelvic floor dysfunction back to childhood injuries. And I think that's absolutely fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. Oh gosh, my neck is getting tight. Ugh. Oh, staring at the computer takes a toll. And Lauren says exposure to chemicals. Absolutely. I was working with one child, a mom and child, and her daughter. They were in like Indiana, and her daughter's bladder just went off the charts. And when they went in and looked at her bladder, it was just covered with white blood cells. I mean, she had something called eosinophilic cystitis, incredibly abnormal. So think that the army of the body is just covering everything in her bladder. And I think what they were able to trace that back to was contaminated well water. And that's one of the things that we kind of talk about for that patient who has consistent symptoms every day that look like daily irritation. Inevitably, if you were talking to me, we would eventually get to your water supply. And if you're drinking water through a water filter, then we know some water filters are too good, and they take out too many minerals, and you end up with acid water. But we also know that well water contamination is happening everywhere. And whether it is pesticides from nearby farms or petroleum products from nearby gas stations, it's real. You know, we have to, I don't know if you guys saw, Harrison Ford did an incredible speech at the UN climate conference, and I posted it, I think I retweeted it on Twitter. We cannot live without nature, and we are killing nature right now, and we all have to take a step back from money, from profit, from corporate greed, and look at the planet that gives us life. Because if we kill all the bees, we will not have that food. So we got a lot of work to do. So I hope you'll join us in that and join me in that. All right, guys, that's enough proselytizing from me. Again, if you found this helpful, would you please come on over to the IC Network website, at least sign up for our free newsletter. It's freaking free. I don't bombard. I personally write all those newsletters. They might go out once every 2 months. But if you want even more, you can please sign up for our IC Optimist magazine, where you get in-depth stories. I'm just starting to write the fall one now. It's going to be a big thing on estrogen atrophy in that one. So you can sign up for our membership. Make sure that you like our Facebook page. Make sure you come on over to YouTube and you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And I will try to get the streaming software working. It's not working with Facebook very well, but be prepared for the fact that very soon now, I'm going to move all these support group meetings over to Twitch TV. And you're not going to get those daily notices. So I'm going to try to put the schedule out, but I'll be able to do a lot more on a streaming service. Okay. And that's what I want to do. I want to show you where I get my info. I want to show you the tips and tricks to finding good information online, and show you videos of tests and how they're done. And I will be able to do that over on the streaming service. So, all right, my friends, it is almost 6 o'clock. Time for Rachel Maddow. I'll see you later. All right, Facebook is shut down. YouTube, you are next. All right, my YouTube friends. Patty says, it sounds like the Artist Way. And that's exactly what it is. It's part of the Artist Way program. And yeah. Somebody I sent an Artist Way book to. Already in this chat. You should know what that is. Okay, guys, see you later. Thank you, Patty. I'm glad you really liked your mug. Thank you, Elise. Thank you, Lisa. You guys be well. Sleep well tonight.